unusual. I remember one thing. We were somewhere over before we crossed the Rhine in kind of a rest area. The combat had moved on. The division had stopped for the time being. We were out in kind of a field, and there was a couple of villages around. And we got orders. I went up with Sergeant Zambetti to regimental headquarters, which is a town, maybe a couple of kilometers from there, near Euskirchen, I think it was. And we were taking some stuff up there from Captain Seller's office to give to the regiment, and we were to pick up a couple of guys and bring them back. We went through this one town, and just before we got into it, there were 3 boys walking along the road. They looked to be about 15, maybe 16, I don't know, in uniform, and they were scared to death. You could tell that. Well, all boys and whatnot are good, like they were supposed to, soldiers supposed to, if they're in uniform, are supposed to be in prison camp. So we were ordered to round them up and hold them until they could pick them up and get them to camp. So I looked at those kids and I said, Zammy, you know, those kids, maybe we better round them up and take them. Well, we got to talking to them, and one of them said that the SS had come into their village, which was maybe just a kilometer down the road, and had taken all the kids out of the houses, given them guns, and forced them to come out and fight. Well, of course, and they held guns on the parents. The parents were frantic. They didn't know what to do. These were just kids. They weren't even military age. They stuck uniforms on them and apparently started getting desperation to fight the Americans who were coming down on them. Well, these kids didn't have any weapons. They were in uniform. I told Zammy, why don't we just take them down to the village? We're going back through there and just leave them off. The war's over. Well, Zammy said, okay, maybe we better. We got to get back anyway. We loaded them up, put them in, took them down to the town, dropped them off, and their parents, several of them, came running out of the houses toward us. And one mother said, she couldn't believe it. She said, and she's the one that told us about the SS. The boys were scared to death. And the SS had gone. So we let them off, and we said, I told them, I said, you tell those kids to bury those uniforms. As far as that's concerned, the war's over. They thanked us. They were crying, and they were upset, and they were just so grateful. And I said, we're going to remember Americans for this. And I said, well, the war's going to be over soon. Those kids that's the new Germany, das neues Deutschland, I said. They agreed with that, and we went on. Zammy said, hey, Lawrence, he said, we'll have to get court-martialed for this. He finds it out. They'll say, you to Leavenworth. I'm going to tell on you. But we laughed about it, but we felt pretty good about it. It's something that's kind of unusual. It could happen. If you got a chance to help somebody in desperation, even if it's the enemy, so to speak. But those kids, we didn't feel were our enemy. So, and that's another interesting story.